Have you ever felt like everyone else got a rule book for life and somehow you missed the meeting? You can function, you can smile, you can even succeed, but deep down there's this quiet thought you can't shake. Why do I feel different all the time? Not broken, not crazy, just out of sync. Psychology has a surprising explanation for people who never feel normal, and it's not what you've been told. Because what if that feeling isn't a flaw to fix, but a signal your mind learned something early that others didn't? And once you understand why you feel this way, normal may never look the same again. Let's start by gently challenging the word normal. Psychologists point out that normal is not a psychological standard, it's a social average. It's a collection of behaviors that feel familiar to the majority, not a measure of mental health or emotional depth. So when you say, "I don't feel normal," what you're often really saying is, "I don't experience the world the way most people around me do." And that matters. Research suggests that people who never feel normal often have heightened self-awareness and internal processing. Their minds don't just react to life, they observe it while living it. You don't just feel emotions, you notice how you feel them. You analyze your reactions while they're happening. Most people don't do that. They feel angry and move on. You feel angry and ask, "Why did this land so deeply?" They feel happy and enjoy it. You feel happy and wonder how long it will last. That extra layer of awareness creates depth, but it also creates distance. Psychologists observe that this kind of awareness often develops early. Sometimes it comes from growing up in environments where you had to read the room carefully. Sometimes it comes from being emotionally observant by nature. Not trauma necessarily, just attunement. Your brain learned that paying attention matters. The downside? When you're this aware, blending in becomes harder. Social norms start to feel scripted. Small talk feels shallow. Group behavior feels oddly performative. And you start wondering, is something wrong with me, or am I just seeing something others aren't? Here's where research adds an important layer. Studies on social cognition suggest that people with higher internal complexity often feel out of sync because their inner world moves faster than social rhythms. You process meaning while others are processing appearance. You notice contradictions while others focus on flow. It's like listening to music where you hear the background instruments everyone else ignores. There's even some quiet humor in this if you're honest. You can sit in a room full of people laughing and still feel strangely alone because the conversation never touches anything real. Not because you're superior, but because your mind is tuned differently. This is also why advice like "just relax" or "don't overthink it" never really helps. You're not choosing to think deeply, that's just how your mind organizes reality. Psychologists emphasize that this doesn't mean you're antisocial or detached. In fact, many people who feel not normal are deeply empathetic. You feel others strongly, you notice emotional shifts, you pick up on what's unsaid. But because you feel more, you also filter more. You may laugh less easily, but when you laugh, it's real. You may trust fewer people, but when you do, it's meaningful. That selectivity can make you feel like an outsider in a world that rewards ease and speed. And here's an important distinction. Feeling not normal is not the same as being dysfunctional. Psychology suggests it's often a sign of mismatch, not malfunction. A mismatch between depth and environment, between awareness and pace, between your internal world and external expectations. First, stop using normal as a measuring stick for your worth. It was never designed to include minds like yours. Second, your awareness is not something to suppress. It's something to place wisely, around people, work, and environments that can hold it. And this naturally leads to the next question. If your mind is wired for depth and awareness, why does that often come with loneliness, emotional fatigue, or a sense of being misunderstood? If you've never felt normal, chances are you've also felt alone in rooms full of people, not visibly alone, not dramatically isolated, just quietly out of place. Psychologists observe that loneliness isn't always about the absence of people, it's about the absence of psychological resonance. And for minds that operate with depth, resonance is rare. Here's the mechanism. When your awareness is high, your brain is constantly integrating emotion, meaning, context, and intention. You're not just hearing words, you're interpreting tone, timing, and emotional subtext. Most social spaces aren't built for that level of processing. Research on social belonging suggests that people feel connected when their inner experiences are mirrored by others. But when your inner world is complex and nuanced, it's harder to find that mirror. So even when you're included, you may not feel seen. That's why group interactions can feel strangely draining, not because you dislike people, but because you're constantly translating yourself into simpler versions to fit the room. You laugh at jokes that don't land. You nod through conversations that never arrive anywhere. You hold back thoughts that feel too much or too deep. And after all that effort, you go home tired, wondering why being social feels like work. There's a bit of gentle humor in this too. You can survive serious emotional conversations just fine, but 5 minutes of forced small talk about weather and weekend plans can feel like psychological cardio. Psychologists suggest this fatigue comes from self-monitoring. Highly aware people unconsciously track how they're being perceived, adjusting tone and expression to avoid standing out. Not because they're fake, but because they've learned that being fully themselves often creates confusion or distance. Another layer to this loneliness is emotional containment. You feel deeply, but you don't always express it freely. Studies show that people who feel not normal often learned early that their emotional range wasn't easily received, so they became careful. They share selectively, they open slowly, they keep much of their inner life private. This protects them, but it also isolates them. And when connection does happen, it's intense, because resonance feels like oxygen after being underwater. One meaningful conversation can stay with you for weeks. One person who gets it can feel life-changing. But those moments are rare, so your nervous system spends a lot of time in a strange in-between state, craving connection but wary of surface-level closeness. Psychologists describe this as relational ambivalence, not fear of people, but dissatisfaction with shallow connection. And here's something important. Loneliness in this context doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It often means your environment isn't designed for your depth. Just like a highly sensitive instrument would struggle in a noisy room, your mind struggles in emotionally loud but shallow spaces. So, what can you do with this? First, reframe loneliness as information, not a personal failure. It's telling you something about fit, not defect. Second, prioritize fewer, deeper connections over many light ones. Research consistently shows that perceived closeness matters more than social quantity for emotional well-being. And finally, give yourself permission to step back from spaces that drain you, even if they look normal from the outside. You don't need to force yourself to belong everywhere. Which brings us to the final question. If feeling not normal comes from awareness and depth, how do you live well in a world that often rewards the opposite?
At some point, every person who never feels normal reaches a quiet crossroads. You can spend your life trying to blend in, softening your thoughts, shrinking your emotions, laughing at things that don't land. Or you can stop asking, how do I become normal? And start asking, where does my mind actually belong? Psychologists suggest that well-being isn't about fitting in everywhere. It's about alignment between who you are internally and the environments you place yourself in. And for people like you, alignment matters more than approval. Here's the key shift. Instead of seeing your difference as something to manage, see it as something to design around. Research on personality-environment fit shows that people thrive when their inner traits are supported, not suppressed. Depth-oriented minds do better in spaces that allow reflection, creativity, autonomy, and meaningful conversation. That might mean fewer people, quieter settings, slower timelines, not a smaller life, a truer one. This is where many people go wrong. They try to fix their sense of not normal by forcing more stimulation, more socializing, more noise. But psychology suggests the opposite often helps. Depth needs space. Think of your mind like a deep lake, calm on the surface, rich underneath. If you keep throwing rocks into it, you'll never see what's there. There's also an important emotional skill here: self-trust. People who feel not normal often doubt their own perceptions because they don't match the majority. You might think, maybe I'm overthinking, or maybe I'm just difficult. But studies on introspective accuracy suggest that highly aware individuals often underestimate the validity of their insights. You're not imagining things, you're noticing patterns earlier. That doesn't make you right about everything, but it does mean your inner signals deserve respect. Another practical shift is learning when not to explain yourself. You don't owe everyone a translation of your inner world. Some people won't understand it, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar, and that's okay. Psychologists note that emotional health improves when people stop seeking universal understanding and start seeking selective resonance. You're not here to be relatable to everyone. You're here to be real with a few. There's even a soft kind of humor in accepting this. You may never be the life of the party, but you'll be the person someone remembers having the real conversation with, long after the noise fades. That matters more than it looks. So let's talk takeaways. First, stop measuring yourself against a version of normal that was never built for minds like yours. Second, build a life that supports depth, fewer distractions, deeper work, more intentional connection. Third, treat your awareness as a compass, not a burden. And if there are moments when the weight of feeling different feels heavy, psychology gently reminds us that reflection is powerful, but support matters too. Talking things through, journaling, or seeking professional guidance can help bring clarity when the inner world feels crowded. You don't need to become simpler to be okay. You need to become aligned. Which brings us to the final thought. People who never feel normal often end up creating the spaces, ideas, and connections that others didn't know they needed, not despite their difference, because of it. If you've spent your life wondering why you never quite fit the mold, why the world feels a little too loud, too shallow, too rushed, this is the part to remember. You were never failing at being normal. You were simply built for depth in a surface-level world. Psychology doesn't suggest you're broken. It suggests your mind is tuned to notice what others move past: meaning, subtext, emotional truth. And yes, that awareness can feel heavy. It can feel lonely. It can make you question yourself when everyone else seems so comfortable being average. But here's the quiet truth. The people who never feel normal are often the ones who feel most real. They don't skim life, they sink into it. They don't just exist in moments, they experience them. So if you've ever felt like an outsider, remember this. Outsiders see things insiders can't. Your job isn't to numb your sensitivity or dilute your thoughts. It's to protect them, place them carefully, and stop apologizing for the way your mind works. Because the world doesn't actually need more people who fit in effortlessly. It needs people who notice, who reflect, who ask deeper questions. And if you ever feel overwhelmed by that difference, it's okay to pause, to talk, to seek support. Depth doesn't mean carrying everything alone. You don't need to become normal to belong. You just need to belong where depth is welcome. And when it is, you'll finally realize you were never behind. You were just ahead, quietly waiting for the right space to arrive.